Welcome to the Freedom Finances Show. My name's Bradley Valentine, and you have Nick Arrington. It's been a while, Nick, but we're back and we're asking some questions about finances. Today, we're going to go back and forth and ask each other finance questions, some real questions we have, and maybe some FAQs that people might have. And I think there's a lot to catch up in the finance world, including a new huge company in the world, which we'll talk about. Before we get started, Nick, what's the last movie you saw in theaters?
Oh God, last movie in theaters. It's been a long time. I don't even
Really?
remember. Yeah, it had to have been at least a year. I don't think I've
No
gone to the
way.
movie theater. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Jeez.
Um, yeah, what was the last one you saw?
I saw The Odyssey.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely did not see the
No.
Odyssey.
The Odyssey was good. Not amazing, but very good. Let's see. Are you going to see the new Spider-Man this weekend or?
Yeah, well, probably not this weekend, but I do want to see it. Yes, I will probably see that one in theaters. That'll be my next movie.
Okay, fair enough. You've been busy. We get it. Blah, blah, blah. You're important. Okay, whatever.
Ah, oh,
The Odyssey is good. Like I said, not amazing, but a pretty good movie. A lot of flaws, so whatever.
yeah,
Uh,
had a lot of big stars in it, right? Wasn't Tom Holland in it?
Tom Holland's in it. Zendaya's in it. Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson. Yeah, a lot of people are in it, so it's pretty good.
All right,
Yeah. Anne
I'll take your
Hathaway
word.
does this like thing where she's like in a different movie than everyone else, and she's like dramatically acting the whole movie, like screaming and shouting, and veins are popping out of her head. And I'm like, am I the only one who notices? Like, does she think she's on Broadway or something? And it's funny because people are like, oh, her what an amazing performance by Anne Hathaway. I'm like, it was distracting. It was terrible. So, but that's my, whatever.
Okay, that's
Oh,
fair.
all right, let's get to it, Nick. You'll start off, and we'll go back and forth. We have 6 questions each. So, what do you got for me?
All right, so I know we haven't talked in a while, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I've just recently checked out my 401k, and it ain't looking so hot, my guy. In fact, when I checked it out like 6 months ago, it was better than it is today, and I'm investing to make money. So like, why is my stuff down? Why is my money less than it was? And I keep contributing, and I have less money today in my 401k than I did 6 months ago, my guy.
You know what? That's crazy because the stock market's been really good. The S&P 500's at what, like 7,400, better than it's ever been in history, and you can say that a lot. The Dow Jones is up, tech stocks are up. There has been some issues with like stocks going up and down based on Iran and all that, but your stocks should be up right now. So if they're not, one of two things is happening. Either you're not invested in the right stuff, and you should essentially just be invested in, depending on what your goals are, you should probably be invested in stuff that follows the S&P 500. In which case, if you were, your stocks would be up. But if the S&P 500 goes down and the majority of your stuff follows the S&P 500, then yeah, your stock portfolio is going to go down. But historically, it always keeps going up and hitting new record highs every week. So my question would be like, why do you have your stuff in weird? Like, why are your investments in crazy stuff that doesn't follow the market?
Look, don't judge what I'm investing. Do you think I should rebalance at this point? If I'm down after 6 months, should I look at like maybe investing in something different, or do I just stay the course?
Well, it depends on what you're in. Like, because I've rebalanced when I find out I'm in. Like, when I've made a decision that I probably wouldn't recommend to someone, and that happens every once in a while. Like, my emotions get a hold of me, or like, the trendy stocks get a hold of me every once in a while. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that. And then 6 months later, I have regret. Um, I do rebalance, but I always rebalance or try to always rebalance to the safer long term stuff. So if your stuff is in crappy, I guess it depends because you're like, if you're in your 30s, which both of us are, you have plenty of room to invest in high risk stuff, right? And you should be investing in some high risk stuff. But you shouldn't have the majority of your, probably like 25% should be in high risk stuff, but you should be able to know how to handle it. Now, if it's over 50%, I would drop that down. I don't know if that answers your question. So, yes, you should rebalance maybe to 25% in high risk, and then the rest of it in normal stocks that follow the S&P, ETFs, mutual funds.
I dig it. Makes sense. All right, hit me. What
All
do you
right.
got for me, guy?
Okay. So, the last couple years, we've all heard about AI, NVIDIA. We've heard about the chips that they use for AI. And a lot of people like Apple, Microsoft, Google, they're investing in AI. So, because of this, companies like NVIDIA, specifically NVIDIA, have been riding this new wave and they're making buttloads of money, specifically in the stock market. So Apple and Nvidia keep going back and forth with who's the best company in the world, like $4 to $5 trillion, right? Apple yesterday hit $5 trillion in its worth. My question is, do you trust a company like Apple, who's been around longer, more, or do you think it's a better risk or a better option to go with the new technology in a company like Nvidia?
Yeah, so I think it's two questions really.
Okay.
The question is specifically, do you trust NVIDIA more than Apple? And the question is, do you trust a stable blue chip type company versus an up and coming kind of hype type company?
Yeah.
And so I won't comment on the first part. I don't know if I could tell you like Apple versus NVIDIA because at the end of the day, like it could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always like sometimes you just bet on the wrong horse, you know. Um, but like you have to think about Apple, for instance, as a blue chip company. They're huge. They have processes in place. They've been able to like sustain and manage their scale. Right
Yeah.
now, look at another company that's kind of growing. They might be really good as a small company, but once they get larger and have different commitments and like you don't know what type of management style that company's going to have, and you could make the best product and have all sorts of money, but if you're blowing through cash and you're, not managing it well because you've just scaled maybe too fast and you don't have the experience of the right people at the helm, I just think there's more risk to that. Now, it's kind of like, risk versus reward. You go with a company like Apple, you're never going to wake up the next day and be a millionaire, right? Like it's just going to be a slow,
Yeah.
consistent growth. Whereas with NVIDIA, yeah, there are some days you wake and you're like, holy crap, I just went up 50% in the
Yeah.
last 2 days.
Yeah.
But I think you have as much risk to go down in that as well. So it's really just like what level of risk I think you're wanting to do. If you're like long term, I'd probably recommend more of those stable blue chips and maybe even like an ETF with some blue chip stocks. But I think there's a place for the Nvidias. It's just I'm not betting my entire retirement portfolio on like a new hot upcoming company, which you can make an argument maybe Nvidia is a little bit more. They've been around for a little while and stuff like that. So I won't comment on that one. But yeah, personally, my conservative investment, I'm going stable blue chip more often
So,
than not.
okay, you're right to say like Nvidia's been around for 20 years, but
Yeah.
no one really knew who they were until
COVID
2021,
maybe?
right?
Yeah.
Maybe gamers knew who they were, right? Like, oh, I got my new Nvidia graphics card or whatever. Um, and as of 2020, their stock was like $6. you
Yeah,
know?
they've exploded in growth and like
Yeah.
value and everything in the last 5 years. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy.
and now they're up to 190. So I guess like you've heard those stories or read those articles where someone's like, if I had 1,000 shares of Microsoft in 1979, today it would have been worth like $89 million or something. So my
Sure.
question is, do you think, let's say I put a crap ton of money into Nvidia, do you think like I could be in that scenario in 30 years from now when I retire, or people are in their 50s and 60s and their Nvidia stock is, you know, multiplied 1,000-fold, and then then they're like going back to today and they're like, man, if I wouldn't have listened to Nick, I would have retired with $112 million. Do you think we'll be in that situation, or do you think who cares, invest wisely regardless?
Yeah, it's kind of who cares. I think those videos I hate. I'm going to be real with you, and it's like, hey, if you'd invested in this company
Yeah.
10 years ago, because the reality of it is, if you had bought winning lottery tickets 10 years ago, how much money would you have today, right? Like, if you had bet it all on black,
Right.
it's a gamble. Yeah, in hindsight, it's super easy. But when you look at, I'll age myself here for a second. But if you remember, like the DVD race, there was like Blu-ray, and then there was HD
HD,
something. Like there were two
DVD.
different kinds, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, which one do you bet on? Only one of those two actually made it out. Blu-ray was the one that won in that one. So, but
Hmm.
at the time, it was like there was no way to know which one was going to be the better
Yeah.
thing, And so it's like I think the same thing happens right now. Is yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that make a bet and they get rich in 10 years and they hold it. There's going to be a lot of people that bet wrong though.
Mm.
And maybe Nvidia is the one if you truly believe in them, or maybe a new company comes up and has a cheaper chip that does better things, and they
Yeah.
put Nvidia in the business tomorrow. Like you just don't know, and so yeah, hindsight, sure, but like, do you want to make that bet? How much do you want to bet towards it? I'm not betting my entire retirement on it. That's for sure.
All right, last question with Nvidia. And I know it's impossible to, tell the future, but do you think that Nvidia will still be growing as a stock in 10 years from now?
Um, I mean, maybe. I think here's right now, right? And technology moves so quickly, who knows? But you've got to figure out a way to monetize what they're making, right? And so they make chips. You can use it for gaming computers and stuff like that. But that's not why they're valued at what they are, right? They're valued because of the AI, and I still think we're at a tipping point. We haven't figured out how to monetize AI to a point where like it's worth it. Like there's the potential, we think it can, but we haven't like cracked the code, I don't think yet. I think we're starting to dip our toes in it a little bit. But if you can make as much money with AI as people think, then yes, I think Nvidia is poised to be like one of the top contenders with delivering chips that people want, because AI is just such a way to make easy money or make people's lives better and stuff like that. But I think that's the biggest question is,
Okay.
do companies figure out how to make money with AI?
So you think it's like a 50-50 shot? Is that you?
I, I think we're probably closer to monetizing AI. Transparently, I think the market's probably a little overvalued based off the
Yeah,
value that AI
I
is going to
agree.
provide. And so I think we're going to have a leveling out. I don't think we're going to have a crash. I think we're going to ease up on it, and it might go up until then, but I think we'll ease back on like, okay,
Yeah.
here's what it actually gives us. There'll be some leveling out. But 10 years from now, yeah, I think innovation and stuff like they've done great stuff. I don't see why they wouldn't. So I'm probably a little higher than 50-50.
Okay. All
Um,
right. That makes sense. All right. I think I've railed on Nvidia enough.
yeah,
I think I agree with you though. Like overall, I wouldn't put all my eggs in the Nvidia basket.
sure. But
Yeah.
they're not a bad company.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a
Right.
bad bet. It's a bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I got a question for you now. You mentioned a new company in the world, which I thought
Yes.
your phrasing was ironic because the
Yeah.
company is called SpaceX.
A new
Uh,
company in the galaxy.
yes, a new company in the galaxy. So here's my question for you, right? SpaceX came out. Everybody said it was overvalued and it was really expensive, but then it started climbing, and so I bought because
Hmm.
I'm like, this thing's going to the moon. I think I bought it like 170 or like
Yeah.
it was somewhere at the peak. And then like I think as soon as I bought it, everybody was like, "Oh, now sell," and it started just
Yeah.
going down. And now it's lower than even what the IPO was. And so
Yes.
I'm just sitting here with this SpaceX stock that I bought at a really expensive price, and it's not worth that much anymore. What do I do with it? Do I keep it? Do I sell it? Like what? I don't know what to do.
Do you happen to know offhand what the SpaceX company worth is? Like
Oh
it,
God, wasn't it like it was like 2 trillion at
yeah,
IPO, wasn't it?
yeah, and now it's at 1.4 trillion. Now, that's a big drop, but SpaceX is a top 10 company in the world. It is top 8 in the US. It's above Tesla. and Tesla has a 3 times higher stock price. So there's a lot of stocks out there, and you wonder like, what are they going to do? Are they going to buy back some stocks and reduce the value? But right as of today, it's number 10 company in the world, which is pretty impressive, right? Even even though it did a bump up and some crazy stuff happened, people are still interested in this. I guess the question is, what is SpaceX going to do in the future? Like, if we compare this to NVIDIA, do you think SpaceX will be around in 10 years doing things? Like, what are they going to do? What value are they going to add? How are
So
they
I'm
going to get people profits?
so I'm going to ask this question because this question was actually posed to me. I don't even know what SpaceX does.
Uh-huh.
I just got on the hype train.
Yeah.
So
So
how am I supposed to know?
they build rocket ships essentially, right? I think Elon Musk's plan is to like go to Mars and like
Is there
build
a
a.
lot of money in going to Mars?
I don't know. I mean, what are you going to do at Mars? Okay, from a very real theological almost standpoint, guess what? We're never going to live on Mars. Okay, I'm sorry, Elon Musk. It's not going to happen. Now, in our lifetime, are we going to terraform Mars? You know, like, how am I going to get value from SpaceX? That's my question. And if you think in 10, 20, 30 years from now you can get value from SpaceX, maybe it's a good long term hold. And maybe it can keep growing. But if you're worried about the money, well, you shouldn't buy new stocks when they hit peak. So maybe take that as a lesson. Um, but I don't
So
know.
if a company is publicly traded, they have a commitment to shareholders to create profit, right? Like that is one of the fundamental things about being a publicly traded company is you have to be like it sounds like SpaceX is more of a NASA. Like I don't understand how you make money trying to
Yeah,
terraform
I
Mars and
guess
do that type of
I
stuff.
guess what you could say is like SpaceX helps other technologies. Do you remember, was it like a year ago when they showed the rocket ship landing? It was like coming back down and like the two bars like held on to it, you know? Do you remember that?
Yep, I do. Yeah.
And I remember people being like, "Wow, look at this." I'm like, so it just landed, you know? Like okay. And I guess I underestimated it a little bit. Like it was a pretty cool piece of technology to grab a landing rocket ship. That's never been done before. Whatever. So I guess the point is like, how is that technology going to help our world? To answer you, that's how they have to bring value is like to our life. AI robots, right? Like the Tesla robots, is that going to be part of this? Are they going to use that technology to help with cars, to help with everyday life? Unless it changes our lives, it's worthless to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, to answer your question, if you bought at peak, I normally wouldn't say this, but I'd probably sell it and put it into something less fringy, you know? So, that's my direct answer. Sell it, take your losses, it sucks, cut your losses, put it into VOO, you know? And then just don't worry about it again. And learn your lesson. At one point in time, you have to learn your lesson that buying fringe stocks sucks and there's not much you can do with it. Now, will SpaceX be around in 10 years? Yeah. I don't know how much they're going to be worth or what value. I feel like it could be like a .com bubble type situation where in 5 years from now, people are like, wait, they've brought us in no profits. So we're all selling. And then the company collapses or the stock collapses and it's worth $20 in 5 years from now. What do you think?
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, I mean it's a 50% loss to sell if I bought at the peak.
Yeah, that sucks, but you learned a lesson, a very expensive lesson.
Yeah, don't get on the hype train, that's for sure.
Okay, my question for you is I don't want to do what you're doing anymore. I don't want to mess around with stocks, buying and selling. So I am going to do this. I'm going to buy VOO, FZ Rocks, and Apple. Oh, that's it. 40, 40, 20. Apple is going to be 20%, VOO 40, FC Rocks is 40. VOO is an ETF. FC Rocks is a very, very low fee mutual fund that moves around the S&P. I think VOO is just the S&P, right?
Yep.
And then Apple is Apple. If I did that and I said I'm never looking at stocks again, I only put all my money in these three with a 40-40-20 ratio. Anytime I add money, I put it in that percentage wise. I sell everything and put it in there. Am I making a good decision?
So follow-up question. What type of time frame are you investing for?
Let's
How long?
assume I'm 36 years old and I want to retire when I'm 60-ish, right? So
Okay.
25
So we
plus
got,
years.
yeah. Uh, I think Apple is the only kind of like wild card in that equation
Sure.
from my perspective. I think the odds are very good that if in 25 years from now you look back and say, did I make a good decision or a bad decision? You're going to say, I made a good decision. I think overall it will be good. There'll probably be some rockiness in the short term. And, there's small chance that Apple doesn't exist in 25 years. And so that portion of your portfolio is just gone. Uh, but you said that part was 20%, right? That was the smaller one.
Apple, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think overall, yeah, I'd say probably 90% chance you're looking back and being like, hell yeah, that was a good decision.
What do you think would be that 10% scenario?
I think the 10% scenario is, one, Apple doesn't exist anymore. And so a large
Okay.
part of your portfolio is gone. Um, I think Boo gives you exposure to all. I don't really know what's in the mutual fund. I'm not familiar with that one, so I don't know what
The
it's
mutual
exposed
fund
to.
does follow the S&P 500, but they try to weigh it out a little bit better. They weigh it with more profitable companies, and since it's a mutual fund, they move the money around for you, and it's very low fees, like barely
Okay.
noticeable.
Then yeah, I would say, I mean, it sounds probably similar to Boo, to maybe just weighted
Yeah,
differently, something
yeah,
like that. And so yeah, I think my 10% is either like for whatever reason, people don't really invest in the stock market. Maybe companies go more private, and that just becomes like an outdated type of an investment avenue. People go more into like
interesting.
real estate, or more, just a little bit different than how we see it today. But I think that's so unlikely
That's
just
a
because there's so many.
fringe scenario. The
Yeah,
whole
like that's.
economy would have to change greatly for that
Well,
to
just, I
happen.
mean, in 30 years, I guess it's possible, but it's very unlikely. But I'd
Yeah.
say that's probably like
Okay.
10% is something crazy like that.
So basically, as long as Apple still exists and the stock market, specifically the stock market, doesn't collapse, I'm good.
I think you're good. I
Okay.
think you're good. Yeah.
Okay, well, please don't collapse stock market 30 years from now.
So I feel like your question maybe just answered my question, but I'm going to pose a slightly different one to you. Um, I have some extra money. I want to make more money, and so I figure investing is like the thing to do. But I don't know how long I want to invest it for. So what do you think I ought to do?
My answer is stop trying to make short-term cash. That's what your job is for, right? Like investing in the short term, like it just never ever really works. No one ever really wins. Every once in a while some people win the lottery or hit it big, on finding one fringe thing. But between all those 1 in 10,000 people, you have 9,999 people who failed and lost money. So make your short term money through having a job. Make your long term money through investing and putting in the stock market. And like if you want more short term money, do more work, like don't try to multiply it and that's how you get your short term memory. Like start a side hustle or a business or whatever, but don't use the stock market to make short term funds because by the time you're done gambling, losing some money from some bad bets, trying to time the market, paying taxes, you're not going to end up making the actual short term cash. Long term, put it in and it will grow. And like I said with VOO, I mean, even if you just put some money in VOO, like you said, as long as the stock market doesn't collapse, you're good, you know? I mean, you can invest it in other things, which we'll talk about, but don't try to make short-term cash through investments because it never works. Maybe it works for like gangsters, you know? Like gangsters who like push out some local, like hustle some local, you know, stores on the corner stores in New York and like they turn it into whatever, right? Sure. Okay, that's how you can make a good investment turn around, but it never works. And for every story you hear that it does work, there's 10,000 stories that it didn't work and people lost a bunch of money.
So either invest long term or become a gangster is the recommendation.
Start hustling. That's it.
Yeah, I like it.
That's a quick answer. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I like it. All right, hit me. What do you got?
Okay. So, probably since we've been in Freedom Finances, we've talked about Bitcoin every once in a while. Um, when we started Freedom Finances, it was, let's see, it was March ish of 2024. Okay.
Yep.
So, how much do you think Bitcoin was in March of 2024?
Oh God, was that around? Was it 25K? Am I remembering that right? Or am I totally
No,
off?
no, it was 68K in
Oh,
March of 2024. Last year, it got up to
mhm.
125,000.
Yeah,
Today
yep.
it's at 63,000. So my
Yeah.
question is Bitcoin just not a viable option and we just kind of were all duped or what?
Yeah. So yeah, I have so many different feelings on this one. Do you remember those things that were like the pictures of monkeys that people were paying like crazy money for?
NTFs?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And NFTs, yes.
NFTs, sorry,
Yeah.
NFTs.
And so like we got duped on NFTs, right?
Yeah,
Like
oh
that was
yeah.
definitely like no question about it. We got duped. I think the pro Bitcoin people would argue that in 24, because everybody talks about like the Bitcoin cycle, right? And like how it's got this highs and then low. And so if $68,000 was the high in 24 and $63,000 is the low in 26, you could make the argument that's the cycle, right? Like it goes up and then it comes back down and then has higher highs, and like the next high will be 150 and then it'll come back down to 80 and then like it does that thing, like that's Bitcoin's life cycle.
Like it's
And so I think
going
that's
like
the
this.
yeah, it makes higher highs and lower or higher lows, right? And so like it's upward momentum. Like that's the argument is that it does it every single time, right? And I don't know if it coincides with the halving event type of thing, but like that's the argument for Bitcoin is this is normal. When Bitcoin, because I it hit 20,000 at some point. I remember after it was like at 60, so like
Yes.
because I
So in 2021, it was in the 60,000s. And then
yeah.
in 2022, early 2023, it was around 20,000.
Okay. So like it's been kind of doing the same thing where it goes up and then down and then but it continues to go higher and higher. So if $63,000 is the low for this cycle, I think there is some argument that it can continue. Obviously nobody knows. I don't think we have been duped. Here's what really scares me about Bitcoin is there's so many stories like the Satoshi guy, I think is his name, who like created Bitcoin.
Hmm.
It's like rumored to have just an insane amount of Bitcoin. And if you think like if that ever flooded the market and was sold, you could collapse Bitcoin
It'd be
overnight
like
just because
$18.
yeah, you know what I mean? And so like if there's just certain things like that I
Hmm.
think could happen that could just crash it. And then you always hear these stories about like, oh, I have a flash drive in a dumpster that has, $1 billion on it. And like if those types of things ever like created a
Yeah.
supply that was insane, then yeah, like nobody would want it anymore. I think what Bitcoin has going for it is a limited supply. There's only so many coins that can ever be mined. They're
Right.
getting more and more difficult to mine. In fact, I think even right now, the cost to mine a Bitcoin is more than what the Bitcoin is worth. So I
Yeah.
can't imagine people are like trying to mine Bitcoin right now because it's just not
Yeah.
profitable.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of things in play that make Bitcoin continue to like stay where it's at. But I don't think I'm ready to say we've been duped. I think there's still argument that we're just in the cycle. But I'm also not like saying, yeah, Bitcoin is the future, like for sure. It's like a wait and watch type of thing. Dip your toes in it, maybe 5 to 10% of your
Yeah.
portfolio. You want to go in that, but
Does this
yeah, I'm not.
change your answer at all? The
Oh,
market
okay.
cap for Bitcoin is 1.284. If it was a company, it would be number 11, right below SpaceX, right above Tesla, as highest, number 11 highest company in the world. If it was a company, a traditional company. Does that change
No,
anything for you?
I don't think you can make that comparison because it's not a company, it's not generating income, it's a currency.
Yeah.
So I think you have to compare it to other currencies, not other companies. So I don't know if it's apples to apples when you look at it like from that lens. Um, because yeah, if it was a company making that much money, sure, totally makes sense because it's backed by something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if Apple went out of business tomorrow, there's still inherent value in their patents and equipment and things like that. Bitcoin does it. There's no inherent value. Like you can't do anything with a Bitcoin. It's just has value because we say it has value.
You can't do anything with it. What do you mean?
Well, for instance, if Apple goes out of business, I can go and take their own equipment and I can repurpose it.
Gotcha. Okay.
It does not have something that has utility
Okay.
that can do anything with.
It's like the only utility is that it has spending value.
Correct.
Do you think that okay, I feel like the purpose of Bitcoin was to be spent. And no one spends it. I mean, some people do, right? I've known people to buy a car with Bitcoin or whatever, but 99% of people probably aren't spending Bitcoin. They're investing, buying, selling, and trading. Do you think that helps or hurts or does it matter?
Well, I think if you go and look at what Bitcoin was originally intended, it was like a decentralized currency
Right.
that is not, you can't overprint. You can have like anonymous type purchasing powers and things like that. And I think that as we get to a place where we're saying, hey, how do we tax Bitcoin? How do we make it a little bit more like money? I think it does start to lose some of the like original value that it had. But I mean, the market continues to say, hey, it's still worth $63,000 a
Yeah.
coin. And so that's where it's like the value is really just whatever we say it is, and supply and demand. But it's not as what it used to be where,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people continue to value Bitcoin. All I know is that they are. I don't see the inherent value of it as much. And I think as we continue to policy it and create legislation and investment options for it, I think it's the same as gold or but it's less because it's just there's nothing that you can do with it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
All right. Fair enough. Okay.
Hmm.
So we're kind of like, no, we're not duped, but maybe it has some value, but it's not tangible, so it's kind of hard. But it's not a scam.
It's I don't think it's an intentional scam. I think if we look back when it does crash, we'll say it was a scam.
Yeah.
But time will tell on that one.
Okay.
All right, here's my next question for you. Okay, as we're talking about like investments and stuff like that. So I saw this like bro on the internet, and he said, "Hey, like you guys are dumb for investing in 401ks. It doesn't make any sense. Those are stupid. Like you really want to build like generational wealth. You go and like get properties, you rent them out, you do the what is it, VRBO or that type stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
How you make and then you use that money to buy another one and you get 100 rental properties and like that's how you make money. What are your thoughts? Should I do that? Should I cash out my 401k and go and get me a rental in Florida?
I like the idea of using that money to buy a different property. It's like you're doing a pyramid scheme, but with yourself. You know, like the money all funnels up, but it funnels to me. But I have to sell the other stuff. I can't imagine that rent of that property is a high value investment above other things first. It's funny because I was going to ask you the same question, but we essentially had the same question. Um, but like you see those videos online and they're really, really like, ooh, like I should get myself a couple properties and rent it out. But the question is like, okay, are you going to manage the property? Like, how many are you going to manage when, when the $4,000 furnace drops out and then you have to upgrade it and it costs $10,000? Are you covering that cost? Are you putting it in? Are you doing the labor? But if you have 100 properties, are you paying a bunch of guys? Like, are you like you're essentially starting a business, right? Like, are you starting the Trump empire again of like the 80s and the 90s? Um, so my question would be like, how do you have the money to invest in it first, or are you just putting it
Um,
on a mortgage?
I think you would put it on a mortgage, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
that's what your average person that's watching these videos, they don't have the. I mean, I'm
yeah.
sure if I've got the cash to go and buy 10 rental properties, I'm not taking advice in some random
Okay,
Jim
so
Bro
you're
on the internet.
putting the first one on a mortgage. You need someone to rent it. Like, do you
Yeah.
live in a good
Yep.
neighborhood? Do you know how to do credit checks? Like, what if your person just bails on you? Or what if they don't pay rent and stop answering your phone calls and don't open the door? Depending on where you live, they may have a year to get out of the house and you can't spend anything. To me, and rental properties are like high risk and like long-term medium reward. Like it's like another. So my advice goes back to my other thing, like, don't try to make money by short-term investments. Like, if you have the extra cash and you can afford a few months of missing mortgage payments, which interest rates are pretty high, so you're probably looking at $2,500 a month to $4,000 a month. If you have 6 months of $3,000 a month, and no, you don't have a renter, or your renter's scamming you out, can you afford that, or are you going to go bankrupt? If you invest in the stock market, as long as you don't need that money to take it out, then it's gone, it's doing its thing. And this, you actively have to find a way. It's like if you invested for Apple, but you had to cover the minimum cost each month. And then as long as the Apple prices kept going up, you got the money back. That's my thoughts. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if you're wanting to start a business and you're like, this is the thing I'm passionate about, I want to go and I want to manage properties and I want to manage these types of things, I think it's cool. But if it's like, hey, it's just like the stock market, except I move money from here to here and I can
Yeah.
do the same actions, I think you're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
I've known a couple people that have done this, and it's like they'll spend thousands of dollars fixing the place up, and then they'll spend months waiting to find the right renter,
Right.
and you have all sorts of taxes and repairs, and there's money to be made, sure, but there's money to be lost. There's a lot of
Yeah.
work that needs to be done. Like it's more than what people think. So it's a completely different type of investment. It's to your point, it's a business. It's not an investment, I think.
Yeah.
And so it's just you got to know what you're getting yourself
And
into.
my
I'm not saying
question would be
that.
this: how many months of missed mortgage without a renter before your wife divorces you? Like
It would be 2 days late on the rent, and she'd be like, "We're done. Stop doing this."
you know like that's the thing is like, okay, we haven't had a tenant for 10 months, and
Yeah,
this has cost us 35 grand, you
she'd be
know
like, "You can go and live in that
yeah.
apartment now."
Exactly. So that's some legitimate things to think about, because we're guys and we're the ones, like, I watch those videos and I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that, that's just the, like, we're inherently more risky and women
Yeah.
aren't. So like, this is a thing, probably 95% of the people who are going to do it are going to be guys. And the question to those 95% are like, what's your wife going to do when you've gone 6 months without a tenant?
She's gonna divorce you 100%.
Yeah. Okay, my question, let's say, like, at Freedom Finances, you and me, we all agree that one of the best investments you could make is investing in your IRA or your 401k to the match point. So
Yep.
if you invest 8% or 5%, your company will match that 5%, anything
Mhm.
over that. So that's 100% investment. Awesome investment. So my question to you, Nick, is let's say my company's at 5%. I put 5% in and I don't put a penny more because I focus it all on my Roth IRA, specifically Roth, because I want to put that $7,000 in at already taxed, so that way when I pull it out, it's post tax. Do you think that's a good strategy? Is like just do the minimum to get the match and then focus on Roth and then other stuff? Or what would you recommend?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think I've always said like order of operations should be company match on 401k and then max out your Roth IRA. Um, there's no short-term benefits for you for maxing out the Roth IRA. So like if you're sitting there today being like, hey, I'm not really getting much out of this, like that's the point. It's really over the next 30 years looking
Yeah.
back and being like, hey, I'm not paying taxes on all this money that I just made over the last 30 years. Like that is amazing, especially when you're thinking about even like your lowest tax brackets are like what 12%, something like that. Like
Yeah.
you get to save that when you go and withdraw. Now, what I will tell you is if you've maxed out your Roth IRA, and then you're like, hey, should I go back and up my 401k? I'd say maybe, right? I
That's
think
a
if
good
you,
question.
yeah, like if you've maxed out other like, stock options, maybe your company offers and like different like
Hmm.
guaranteed sources of income, and you're like, hey, should I go ahead and increase my 401k? The answer is maybe. It does reduce your taxable income overall, right? And so the more that you contribute into the 401k, your overall earnings for the year is a little bit less, and so you'll save a couple bucks on taxes on what you're making for the current year. It's a relatively good investment. You pay taxes on it at the end, which sucks, but it is a good avenue to be able to make some money. And what I like about it too is like it's hard to get to. And so I think with investing, there's some discipline that you need, and you have to let it sit there until you retire. There's like
Yeah.
penalty stuff like that, and so it kind of forces you to stay in the market long term. And so I don't think it's bad to go over 5% or whatever the company match is. I just think you have to max out some of the other things first, and then go back and start increasing your 401k.
I like that. So max your 401k, then max your IRA, and then you could start to go back to your 401k.
Sure.
And then after that, maybe work on like an individual account or.
Yeah, I'd say, once you start getting into maybe like the double digits on 401k contributions, like 10, 11%, maybe you do start, playing around a little bit more, put some into an individual account, and just kind of, want to learn some stuff. Or if you're just like, hey, I don't want to learn, maybe you just keep bumping up the 401k to
Yeah.
what's the max, like
I
15% or
think
20?
15 sounds right. I'm not
Yeah.
sure though.
Um, but yeah,
You know, that's a good question because if you max, let's say the 5% or whatever match, and then I think this year 7,000 is the max in IRA,
yeah.
and each year it goes up a little bit. I wonder like how many people are really getting to double digits in their 401k and then doing the 7,000. Most people are probably maxed out with what they can use to invest until they're getting older and their money's really multiplying on them and their, some of their old payments. So that's probably for most people about all the money they have. 10%
Yeah.
in their
When you think about
401k, 7k.
safety nets and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
regular spending and stuff like that. And the 7K is after taxes. And so,
Right.
like that's yeah, for most people, if you can get to 10% and you're maxed out that and you're contributing to maybe a an ESPP or something like that, yeah, that might
Oh,
be
ESPP, that's
your
a good point.
investment
Yeah.
amount for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got a little extra, yeah, bump it into 401k,
Nice.
or play around with it. You're doing good at that point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we have our last
Um,
two questions, I think. You have one, and
yeah,
then I have one left.
yes. All right. So, my kiddo just turned 18. I want to like I keep thinking like when I was 18, if I had done different things, I'd be in a different position now. And so my
Yeah.
question is like I want to help her build a portfolio. It's not like she's got, mountains of cash or anything like that, but I want to build good habits. I want to help set her up for success so that she's in a better position than I was when I was 18. Like what do I have her do?
When I was 18, I was buying Dragon Ball Z DVDs, like season one, $40
Yeah.
from Best Buy and then wait for the new season to come out. That's what I
How
was
much are
doing.
those worth now?
So I sold a bunch of them, which I really regret, probably 10 years ago to like Entertain Mart or something. And they were
For a
worth
dollar?
like a lot of money. They bought them for a
Yeah.
lot.
Did they? Okay.
Yeah. And like whenever I try to go back and find those same orange, like they're the orange box, they're worth like 40, $50 a season or something. So,
Wow.
anyways, um, here's what I would do. Like, your kid probably doesn't have a lot of cash, but like, get that process started of like the 401k, the IRA, like, help create the counts, like the Fidelity account or whatever you use, Vanguard, create the account, maybe put some money in for her, like let me put $1,000 in your Roth. You can't touch it until, I mean, if she's 18, so 40 years, 45 years.
Yeah.
So this will just grow and teach that, and then say like, okay, you have 401k, put a little bit of money in it, and then just kind of start off with how to do it, and hopefully, even if it's like 2% of your 401k of your salary goes into a 401k, and it's probably not a lot of money, $20 an hour. Maybe in a year she's making $22 an hour, and that's 3%. And it's like we have the hindsight of all the mistakes we made, that we can teach our kids to not make those same mistakes. And like we always talk about, like if we're 18 investing in our 401k or ESPP or IRA, like damn, we would probably have like 2 million in our investment accounts already, you know?
Right.
And like if you could get your kid to be 40 and have 5 million bucks in her investment account in 20 something years from now, she'll be very happy with you, when you're an old man in your 60s with probably the same amount in your investment account. So I don't know if that timeline, like 50s, whatever, but I think that's what I would do, is like start off small or whatever you can afford, maybe even throw some cash in there for her, and teach her the right ways, and maybe even teach her some of the mistakes you made, with investing in stupid stuff, trying to make short-term cash. Like I said, SpaceX, not a good idea to buy into a company at its peak 2 weeks after it just IPO'd.
Look, I didn't know it was at its peak when I bought it.
Right.
All right, I like it. All right, what's the final question that
All
we've
right.
got for this thing?
How much should I care about gold and physical stuff like gold or silver or whatever? Because, okay, hear me out. Gold, since the beginning of time, has had value. And depending on what you believe, like a few thousand years, people have been moving around gold. Kings in ancient Egypt have been moving around gold. Gold's in like ancient religious texts like the Bible, like the Garden of Eden, there was gold. Gold still has value today. It's the one thing in our world, value wise, that has never once just been useless. In the apocalypse, will it still have value? So my question is, how much should I care about gold if it's always had value and it still has value and the price is still going up?
Yeah, I think even in the apocalypse, where like bottle caps are the currency, like gold still has value, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it's funny, and I hope you guys got the Fallout reference, but it's
Yes.
funny because when you look at gold itself and how long it's been valuable, you'd almost think it would be worth more than it is
That's a good
today.
point.
When you
Yeah.
when you look at, like, I saw this, I can't remember where I saw it, but basically it said a house in 1930s, you could buy a house today for the same amount of gold as you could buy it. And so, like, essentially, like the value of
Huh.
gold to physical commodities has like kept up. So it's basically like a an inflation hedge, you know what I mean? And so,
Yeah.
like, That doesn't, I mean, it sounds like a decent place to like put an investment in because it is, it'll keep up with inflation at
Yeah.
least, but most investors are not trying to keep up with inflation. They're trying to outpace it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think here lately, though, gold has probably done a little bit better than that because historically gold has been okay investment.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but here's my real question for you is for the utility of gold, it has to be like electronics utilize gold, right? I know it's a
Yes.
small amount, but they
Yeah, yeah.
utilize gold because of the way it conducts electricity and stuff. Like as we get more and more, technology integrated into our lives, like doesn't that make gold start to increase exponentially? And so like
Yeah.
I don't think gold is a bad investment option. I just think that if you're buying it to be like, hey, I'm going to make millions, maybe not. There's a small chance, I think, maybe that like 10% chance that gold becomes really scarce and we just need it for all these different technologies and stuff. And the people holding it, it's worth a ton of money. But I think it's going to be a nice, safe option. As far as like physical gold versus maybe a gold index,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like your physical gold people are like your preppers. The government's going to fall down, like those types of people. I'm not saying they're wrong. I just think that's the type of people that need to hold it, and the other people that just want to invest in like a gold ETF are like, hey, I think there's value in it. I think I can make money off of it. So I think either way is fine. Obviously, holding on to it, you have more control. Like so, if you have the physical gold,
Yeah.
but I think you know, 10% of your portfolio you want to put into gold, I'm probably not judging you for it. I'd say anything more than that, it's probably like, is that the best thing to do? And maybe question why you're doing it. But
Sure.
I think it's your beliefs. You want to
Huh.
do a little bit more. It's okay. I won't judge you.
I
I'm not
guess
going to say
I'm
you're wrong.
thinking,
Like,
I guess here's what I'm thinking. Let's say I buy, okay, gold today is worth $44,000 per ounce, right? Per
yep.
troy ounce. So every once in a while, let's say I get like a 1/10 of an ounce, $400, and like you can get them from like sometimes like Sam's Club or Costco or whatever. And I just like put it in a little safe in my house. Like I just get these little coins every few months, a couple, every after a while I have, I don't know, a couple 10 ounces of gold. Is that reasonable, or what do you think?
I mean, I guess my question would be like, what's the reason you're doing it? Is it part of your investment strategy, or is it like an emergency backup in case like the world goes
Yeah.
to shit? That's where if it's an investment strategy, that's where I'm like, hey, is that the right place to put your money? But if it's like like if everything goes crazy or sideways, I want to have this as a backup. Then if it makes you feel, I think Susie Orman says like the point of money is to make you feel comfortable, make you feel safe, right?
Okay.
And so like, if that makes you feel safe and comfortable, then sure, yeah, a couple $100 every now and then to buy some gold. I think that's cool. I think it probably nothing happens, but if it does, you're going to be like, "Hey, you should have bought gold, Nick. If you'd gotten this much gold 10 years ago, look where you'd be today." Like, so is it reasonable? Sure. It just depends on what you're really trying to do and
Yeah.
why you're think.
I'm trying to find the price. Do you remember we talked about gold backs a little bit a few months back?
I do remember gold backs. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
They
are those for?
they're $8 per gold back, which is essentially 1/1000th of a troy ounce. So it's technically double what gold is worth for the gold back. It steadily went up through, let's see, it kind of followed gold, because if you look at gold, gold was up to over $5,000 just a couple months ago, and it dropped down to $4,000. So still a good long-term investment, just not a short-term investment. But the purpose of gold backs are to be spent. Like it's kind of like Bitcoin. Like the original purpose was so people could spend it, and it has a literal value. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Like I'm thinking like gold backs, you could technically melt it down and get 1/1000th of, an ounce of gold. It'd be worth half the value. So I don't know. I guess my point is like if I had some gold, it would be like a long-term investment, like, but
I want to ask you this question, okay?
yeah.
You had bought gold at its peak in 2011.
Okay.
it would have taken you 10 years to break even on that investment.
Okay.
Does that still seem like a good investment to you?
No, I guess not because, well, no, probably. What was the price in 2011?
So in 2011, it was $1,800 an ounce, and it went down, and it did not hit $1,800 an ounce again until 2020. And you can almost make the argument if COVID did not happen, the price of gold may have never skyrocketed
Yeah,
like it has in the last couple of years. And so if you take away the last three or 4 years of what gold has done and just looked at the years before that, it's not a
it's
great
gone up
investment.
55% since 2011. I just did the math, which the stock market is.
But most of that was in the last like
Yeah,
3 or 4 years.
yeah, yeah. The last
So
couple
if
of
you
years.
take that off, then it's like if this was a company, you'd be like, hey,
Yeah,
I don't know about that one. Like it's only in the last couple of years that gold has really skyrocketed. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's why it's like, hey, does it make sense? Maybe. I just don't know if it's the smartest
yeah,
investment. But gold has utility, and so I think there's value outside of just what it's worth to sell. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. I would just it's something to keep in mind. I don't think that's a guaranteed like super smart decision, but it could be a very conservative and fit a couple different scenarios. But it is very expensive compared to what it has been.
yeah. Which could be a good thing if you've been holding on and you want to sell some, or a bad thing considering if I want to buy some more and it grows so slowly.
Well, and it's on a downward kind of trend right
Yeah,
now. You don't know
yeah.
where bottom is, so maybe it levels out. 3,000 an ounce. Like I mean, even at 3,000 an ounce, it still is on track to kind of have like that steady growth over the last like 20, 25 years. It's really peaked if you look at the graph, man.
Oh, yeah.
So
All right. I think you've convinced me because I think there's always probably a part of us is like, I wish I had a little stash of gold, you know? Like, I
I
wish
wish
I
I
had
had like
some.
a big old bathtub of
Well,
gold coins
yes.
I could swim around in like Scrooge McDuck.
Sure. I wish my house was full of gold. That would be
Yeah.
awesome. But I think people get that way. Like even when you think about like buying houses, there's probably those videos of YouTube where it's like, hey, I just bought this gold, it went up, and I sold it, and I made this amount of money. There's like that feeling in us that like we're losing out, like fear of missing out, FOMO, if we
FOMO,
don't
yeah.
buy gold. But if you really take your time and evaluate it, it's not that great of an investment. You could invest in the stock market over the last 15 years and probably make way more than 55%.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. All right. Well, Nick, that's it. That's all we got. I think we answered all our questions here. Um,
So
Today, let's see. Let's take a look at some of the things we talked about today. Today, Bitcoin is at $63,600. So not not great considering it was double that a year ago. The S&P 500 is down 0.6% today. It's at 73.78, so still really good. Um, Apple's looking good. It is.
SpaceX is up $5 since you told me to sell all of it.
Damn it. That's hilarious. What was it at 111 when we started
Yep.
talking?
Yeah. And ever since we started talking, if you look at the chart, it's just gone up and up and up.
That's hilarious.
That's why you never know what it's going to happen in the short term. But
Yeah.
SpaceX is at 115 right now.
What about oil? Last
Oil.
thing we'll talk about. What are your thoughts on oil and like investing in oil stocks? I mean, the Iran conflict was over, and then Iran bombed some places, so we bombed them. So it's like kind of like on this very uneasy truce between them. So what are your thoughts on oil prices?
I mean, transparently, ever since I've been doing my electric vehicles, I have not spent a ton of time with gasoline or oil or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say maybe it doesn't get me excited. It's not something that I would do like long-term investment for, just because I
Yeah.
think we are transitioning more to having less dependency on it. But it's something that the world's going to need to run on. I mean, I don't know. There's probably some money to be made in there. I think there's different, better options. So that's not one that I would go and flock towards.
Yeah. The
You
crazy
feel differently?
thing, well, I think the more I learn about crude oil, the more I'm like, this is nuts. Everything's made out of oil.
Sure.
Chapsticks made out of oil. Like our shoes are made out of oil. Like these headphones come from crude oil. Like this right here, crude oil. Like our dish soap. Like I didn't even know this until a few months ago. Your dish soap is made of surfactants in like your Tide laundry. That comes from oil.
Oh, okay.
You didn't know that, did you? Like that
I
comes
did
from
not
oil.
know.
And you see those Dawn commercials where they're like cleaning the oily duck, the baby duck, and
Yeah.
it's got oil. They're cleaning oil with oil, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Kind of fighting fire with fire. I like it. Like,
and it's just like every plastic's made out of oil. It comes from oil, like plastic bags, plastic shoes. It's in everything, and it's kind of crazy to think about. Like, it's almost like this crazy spiral you go down when you realize everything is made out of oil, you know?
so does that make you want to invest in oil more?
No, I don't really care about investing it. It's just crazy though.
Fair enough.
All right, that's all we got today. This was Freedom Finances Show. We'll talk to you later. Adios.